there. My name is George Ndongo. I am your host at Shieldcast Podcast, and welcome to another episode of Shieldcast Podcast. So, Shieldcast Podcast is where you find everything related to cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Everything related to cybersecurity, you can find it over here. So, let me do a brief intro of myself. My name is George Ndongo. I am the host of Shieldcast Podcast, and I am a cybersecurity researcher, and I also do research and write on information security and such stuff. I'm also a software engineer, and this is my co-host Kevin Mogo, and I'll let him say a word about himself before we start.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think we've been meeting severally. Maybe to the new viewers, maybe to those who have joined us today for the first time. My name is Kevin Mugo. I'm a cybersecurity consultant and also in the data field here and there. A man of many hats. But since I like in the cybersecurity space today, that's what we'll be focusing today. So what we'll be looking at?
Yeah, so today we are going to have I think a very interesting episode because terrorists and drug traffickers and cyber criminals are becoming increasingly superior, especially when you compare them to these government agencies, and they are utilizing various technologies that are designed to shield them, to protect them against being kind of gotten by the international agencies and the cybersecurity organizations. So today we're going to have a focus on that, and because the ability of these agencies to legally access this data and use it against the cyber criminals is a matter of concern, and I think today that forms a base of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about these agencies that have been formed either by nations, by individuals, for profit, for non-profit, but the main goal being trying to curb these cyber criminals with the increasing power they have by the use of technology.
Yeah, that's what we'll be looking at. So we'll be covering what they've done, what they've been able to achieve, where they located, the principles they use, and also what have they been able to achieve so far with regards to these incidents. Because if you've been following the trail of previous episodes that we've been having, we've been focusing on, we started off with individuals, then we went into groups, the hacker groups.
Yeah, true.
We also looked at the attacks, the top attacks, especially at the beginning of this year. But now today we want to look at how these investigations are usually carried out. So you can maybe even check from our previous episodes and be able to get a comprehensive coverage of the same.
Be sure to refer to the previous episodes, but this is another episode. Welcome to Global Cybersecurity Organizations. So here we go. We start off with an agency that is so common in the cybersecurity realm. And I believe everyone has heard of this one, because even in movies it's one of the most movies are plotted in there.
I think this episode, since it focuses more on the real space, these are names that you've all been hearing in movies, to an extent that even if you've not sat down and had some general knowledge about, at least there's something or two you're able to learn directly through the movies.
True. So a lot of movie recommendations in here.
Not really, but how they work mostly.
So we are going to start off with the national security, the National Security Agency of the USA, that's the NSA. And I believe that the NSA is a more common acronym in the cybersecurity world that in NSA only. And if we start to maybe mention movies that mention the NSA, there are plenty.
True.
And so the NSA focuses on signal intelligence, so known as SIGINT, and information assurance.
So when you talk about SIGINT, first of all, it means that let's take an example of a boss who pays the staff on a frequency of, let's say, once per week. So the signal is that this person every day or every Thursday or Friday at 2 p.m. he's at the bank going to make that transaction to maybe pay the people who he works for. So it creates a sequence of signals. So out of this, people in the investigation bodies will be able to know, if you want to find person A, we'll meet him at this place and at this time, because this is where or maybe where you live, or things of the such. So that's the now based on a person's character, and then there is now the second one based on programs that are written. So there's the person side, and then there's the program side, which now is referred to as cryptology. Yeah. So when we talk about now the cryptology side, which is what they also do, this is more of the study of code, or how systems work, or how programs work. So for example, in the previous episode, we talked about malware that comes in bits, if you remember. So as you're trying to investigate it, if piece A meets piece B, this is the next thing that will happen. Will it wait for piece C, or will it execute? So out of all of this is like the study of code, what other people have done, because the dimensions you take up are very broad, and you'd need a lot of focus to quickly understand and then solve the problem you have, because behind every crime there's usually a lead, and to get that lead you need to study. Yeah.
So does everything to do with encryption, is it in the field of cryptology?
Yeah, there's that aspect, but there's still more to it, because there are technologies also that are coming up, such as quantum computing, and who knows if the next crime would come out of it. So that's why I'm considering as more of a sequential learning phase, that people need to adapt as they progress.
So I believe the scope is large, and that's why you are not leaving out the new technologies like quantum computing out of the cryptology.
True.
Yeah. So it came into the limelight in around 2013. This NSA, and I believe, as you said in the beginning of this section, a lot of movie recommendations. If Snowden is familiar to any of our viewers,
that's true. Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden. That is an adaptation of this scenario, which around this time many of the individuals came to hear of the word NSA. So I believe no country is no citizen in the world would want maybe the government to do surveillance on them.
Sure. I think even in our country, maybe the government would be doing surveillance on you. Maybe tax issues.
Tax issues.
Or
just the
security
things related to law enforcement. But nothing infringement of your privacy and all of that.
There would be a good agenda behind it. So I think what Edward Snowden did is that he attacked or compromised two organizations. Let's first start with what he did. The first one was the compromise of the internet service provider for the whole country, PRISM. USA, PRISM. So after this compromise, what was he able to obtain? He was able to get the people who are communicating and the length of their call. It was confirmed that they did not get the data, or the data that is in between. But that's like an example of SIGINT. Who do you call? How frequently do you call? What do you talk about? So out of this, people can be able to get sensitive details out of you. So that's what he did. So signal intelligence, you cannot rule out that they were maybe surveilling on the citizens, because maybe if a citizen of the US maybe talks to a citizen maybe in Europe or in Africa, the conversation will the length of the call will be recorded, and that's intelligence that can be used against them. And also if not surveillance of trying to know who you are, maybe another objective that might have been there was maybe to sell it in the black market. So I think I've not yet confirmed, but it was more of a funny clip that people are selling their notes in order to get more cash, like to outside countries, of which now it's like the same thing, that the same tradition is being reflected on the data side. You're trying to sell it, and it's a good price, if one, depending on the volume, and two, depending on the content that you're carrying out. If the same volume of data that contains credit card info is available for maybe just people first name and last name, credit card info would get a lot of value. And you still consider that the volume of the people's names is just the same. You see, so volume, the content, the richness is what matters in that space.
So they say that data is expensive, and or data is the new currency. So you get why maybe even the attackers are not related maybe to NSA get to sell those information in that concept that the ransomware usually talk about, that they get data from an organization but end up selling it in the dark web if this organization ABC doesn't comply. Yeah, so the importance of data and the security of data.
In fact, in the next session, there's a government agency we'll talk about that was also hacked, and the attackers claimed that they are selling their data in the black market, that's in the dark web. Yeah, so we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, so that has been NSA, and I think we are just not going so far away, even in terms of fame of the organizations. We are not going so far away from the NSA, and we're going to do the GCHQ. So now, we mentioned the GCHQ, but it is a part of another broader organization, which is the National Cybersecurity Agency of the UK.
Yeah, so it's under it. The GCHQ is above, so they are more working hand in hand. But still, even if someone is like below you, what role the person plays, it's very crucial.
Yeah, true.
In fact, to a whole national level, because it has a lot of influence when it comes to state of the security of the country. Yeah.
So with regards to maybe critical infrastructure, so the GCHQ is part of the computer security incident response team that maybe they act as the first responders, and they kind of monitor and report, and they are what we call the single point of contact.
Yeah, so if anything like happens, who are you supposed to communicate to first, especially with it? Because if maybe someone gets an injury, maybe you'll try to make a communication maybe to some ambulance or the rest. So if maybe an incident happens, this is the first point of contact, as you have said, and then after that point of contact, there is now the aspect of incident response. Okay.
Yeah.
So now when you talk about incident response, maybe to a person who has never like had it before, it's more of when something has happened, what are you supposed to do and what are you not supposed to do. For example, you have found a laptop in a crime incident. Are you supposed to switch it off? No. Why? You lose the data. If you found it off, what are you supposed to do? Leave it in that status and try to, or maybe connect it to a power source. You see, so these are the things that you're supposed to maybe consider. It's a whole checklist. So depending on one scenario to the other, these are the people who now respond and now cover up that incident response aspect.
So they kind of set the guidelines, and is it part of their role? Just to clarify that this is what you're supposed to do. Maybe as security teams of other organizations and other companies which maybe they manage security service providers, do they look up to GCHQ to set up the guidelines of this is what you're supposed to do?
Not really. They might be having internal guidelines among themselves, but there are also international guidelines that govern how these principles work. And then secondly, there are renowned institutions, for example the EC Council, that has a set of, or has a vast or broad array or some broad knowledge when it comes to incident response. So if it's maybe incident response, they have a certification, So if you hear this person has done a certification in incident response and is Kenyan, if I go to India, the same principles that are being used in the country will be used over there, because the certification that we did is globally renowned and practically makes sense. Yeah.
So as we go deep into the GCHQ, the GCHQ is a government organization.
True.
So does it meddle in private sector, in the private sector?
When it comes to investigation or incidents, when it gets in touch with the person at hand who has been affected, it translates from being the government, the private side. Because you by yourself, whatever we are doing, we are not government affiliated. If an incident happens and this laptop here may be needed, it now turns into a private affair. But there's a set of procedures that need to be followed so that it is effectively translated into an end-to-end incident response process or into an end-to-end investigation process, depending on the scenario.
So more of the backbone in cybersecurity in the UK.
Yes.
Because we have seen in previous situations, like an episode we covered about the lockbit, The Lockbit operation wasn't that operation wasn't one single intelligence agency.
It had about seven or so organizations from the world.
So it can coordinate with other organizations so as to achieve its purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is that about the GCHQ, and we are going to go straight ahead to our third and final intelligence agency or government intelligence agency of this episode. Yeah. So that has been it for this episode, and I have been your host, George Ndongo.
Kevin Mugo. I think we've exchanged some good insights, and I've been able to learn a lot.
Yeah, so be sure to rate our Spotify if that is where you get your podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to participate in our Twitter page, that is shield_cast, shieldcast.